Good morning and welcome to WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the scenes and behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. Joshua Van Hoesen is making New Haven tick. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Van Hoesen, close enough.
Van Hoesen. Okay, well, no, I'm going to get it right. All right. And a lot of people are going to be learning how to pronounce his name because he's running for a seat on the Board of Alders as a Republican. He's here in the WNHH studio to tell us about that. Welcome back, Joshua Van Hoesen. Thanks for coming in.
Good to be back, Paul.
And thanks for running for office.
Yeah.
Because even though we don't take sides on who should run, Darryl Brackeen was here too, we love the idea of competitive politics in New Haven, sincere people running for office and giving the voters a chance to weigh in on how to run our city.
I saw his interview. I'm glad that he came in, and I'm glad that I can be giving the residents another choice in the city.
All right. Now, you're doing that choice in Ward 26. That's as far west as you can go in New Haven, Upper Westville. My favorite neighborhood because of its name, Beverly Hills. We have a Beverly Hills in New Haven. And you have run before. You've been here before. You've run for Alder. And did you also run for state rep or also just Alder?
I did run for state rep. My main thing, though, was when I ran for Alder in the 18th. And though I didn't win, I very much felt it was a success. So I ran at the time on government transparency. A big thing was that the Alder at the time didn't attend the community management team meetings. From my understanding, he attends them all now. So I'm very happy to hear that. I think having a direct line of communication with your Alder is very important.
So now you, as you mentioned, you ran in Ward 18 before, I believe twice or once?
What's that?
You ran twice before, right?
Well, I ran once for Alder and I ran once for state rep.
And that was in Morris Cove, which is far east as you can go in New Haven. So you've now gone to the extremes. Is there any difference?
Yeah, I would say the communities are a little different. I would say in the Cove, it was a lot of older families, more homogeneous makeup. In Westville, I've seen a lot more diversity.
Well, Upper Westville is just about the most diverse ward. Maybe not as much Latino in that, but black and white. It's a pretty evenly, a lot of middle class, just black and white people and working middle class. Yeah.
And I love all my neighbors. It's been great.
And also Russians. There are a lot of Russians been relocated. You go to Cooper Place.
Oh, okay.
A whole bunch of people resettled there back in the 90s when New Haven did a whole resettlement effort when they were still a Soviet, right at the end of the Soviet Union, right after.
Very interesting. I'm still learning a lot of New Haven history. I've picked up City, which is urbanism in its end. It's all about New Haven. It was suggested.
And you would love it because it goes deep in the data, though, right? You're a data guy. Yeah.
So I've got into some weighty books. This is probably one of the weightiest casual books.
I think it's the best one. Yeah, I've read. I don't know if I've read every, but I've read most of the books that I know of about New Haven in the last century, and I think that Doug Ray nailed it.
It's really given me some foundational understanding of how the city gained the structure that it did.
And have you already gotten through our model city or renewal? Because that's what informs so much of today is what we tried to do in the middle 20th century and what worked and what didn't.
Yeah, so I'm about the 1930s when unionization first started in the city with the dressmakers and the cigar cutters.
So you've already passed Frank Rice, who was the sidewalk mayor.
Yeah, which I was a big fan of. Just kind of low-key, helps everyone out. It was sort of an unaddressed but big problem in the city with a lot of the lawsuits regarding sidewalks.
Now, I read this. It's years since I read the book. Wasn't he kind of making the case that he was positing Frank Rice as a different model of mayor from Dick Lee, the ambitious liberal, let's solve big problems in a big way, to the mayor who says that, and get government to sort of take the lead on that, to government is nuts and bolts. It's fixing your sidewalk. It's the stuff we can do that really doesn't have to do with ideology. It has to do with just spending our concentration on making things work.
And I think that's where government should be. Really, individuals define culture and society. Government helps define the environment that we can all live in, thrive in. So really, that's schools, sidewalks that we can walk on safely, cost of living that stays hopefully fairly even. I would like it to decrease, but I understand that as we look to build services or wrap more services into things, costs go up.
So does that mean, because you are a person who thinks about ideas. You're a young man who came to New Haven a few years ago. You just got interested in stuff. You carried around a book of Thomas Paine. That's what I'll never forget. So you've been thinking about stuff. But are you is your philosophy that government should be less about philosophy and ideology and more brass tacks? Or is it actually a philosophy, a libertarian philosophy, which is that government's a problem, you get out of the way. Every time you try to solve a problem, you make it worse, unless you're just thinking, how are we going to fix that sidewalk, not how are we going to fix people in poverty?
Well, I think government, again, is not really there to necessarily solve all the issues. It's to develop the framework so individuals can solve those issues. Sometimes government is the needed organizational force. It's hard to get everyone together to patch sidewalks across the city, whereas as an entity, a city can direct that. Same with police and fire and education to a degree. Those are items that organization helps, and the individual would be hard pressed to organize things of that scale at times.
So more than an individual can do on their own.
Correct.
Okay, we're talking about that with Joshua Van Hoesen, who's a guy who's helping keep democracy alive in New Haven by just, after he gets done with work, he runs for office for the Republican Party, very outnumbered party in New Haven. 2,400 versus, I think they've culled, it's now down to 39,000 rather than 48,000 Democrats. Big. Yeah. We haven't elected a Republican to anything that's competitive since, I think, at least a decade, and we haven't had a Republican mayor since 1953.
Yeah, it's been a while. And here's the thing with that, and kind of my disappointment, because people go, why are you Republican, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, why are you Republican?
So a lot of it is the small ideals, the fiscal responsibility, the project management. The government isn't necessarily there for everything. I'm not libertarian in the ideals that government is good for nothing. And honestly, in New Haven, we need a choice. It's very frustrating for all the discussions to happen in like independent caucuses or with the Democrat group.
Well, I think what you're referring to there is because everyone's a Democrat, even the independents.
Yeah.
They have a Democratic caucus, which is private under the law, which I still don't understand how they got freedom of information law to do that. But anyway, because it's still majority of the board. 30 members on the board alders, they really run the show, and they meet privately in their caucus where they decide what they're really going to do. Then they have to have their public board of alders caucus, which is the same people. It's like a Woody Allen movie. Here they're moving here. Then they put a different name on the wall, and they move there in another room. And they don't really talk about anything. And then they have a public meeting,
consent.
And you don't know why they do it. And if someone tries to have a debate, everyone just kind of glares at them, shuts them down in a public forum. Yeah,
and I think it's just made it's led to some poor decisions. And a good example is with the new budget that was passed. They didn't want to raise taxes because it's an election year, which I understand the political side of that. So beforehand, we would charge $77 for the tow fee. And that didn't go to the city. That went to the tow operators. We didn't collect on that. Now, there's a whole separate system for taxes. So if you owe taxes on vehicles, this is just like parking tickets. Those build up. So we added a $12 fee because we didn't want to raise taxes. So we had to make money other ways.
See, we had a different gripe here, which is that they did one of the most dangerous things you can do in government, which is to borrow for operating expenses. And they refinanced debt to the tune of $160 million. So we felt it was kind of cheating in a way that hurts future generations, because $30 million a year up front comes up for a bunch of years. So the real reason they didn't raise taxes, I don't think, was the towing fee, although you're right, that's how they did to do the rounding error.
Yes.
They got $30 million that just all of a sudden is free money. But it isn't free money, because about 3 or 4 years down the line, we're going to pay a lot more for that money, which is how Hartford got to the brink of bankruptcy. But anyway, that's my soapbox. Alex Talbis, who's listening, thanks for listening. I respect you, Joshua, for running and giving people a choice. For me, it is really hard to get beyond your party label, but you seem like a genuine and nice guy. Kudos. Thank you. Alex is also a genuine, nice guy and cannot vote for you anyway. He's at a different ward.
I've actually seen a lot of his commentary on articles, and I think he brings up some very good point about our current mayor, that a lot of her achievements have kind of been overshadowed by some of the negatives of late, which I do find unfortunate. But I do think those negatives exist, and I'm excited that, from my perspective, Elliker is going to try and address them. And a lot
so
of
are you going to vote for Elliker?
Yeah. So currently,
just between us, because your vote is private.
Yeah. No. So currently, that is where my vote swings. Elections haven't occurred yet. I can always be convinced with additional information. I try to be an open-minded individual.
How come the Republicans didn't run someone for mayor?
We felt we didn't necessarily have the history of success.
1953 wasn't that long ago.
Right, yeah.
No, 1951 was the last time you won. 53 was when the...
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's not that long ago, but we would really like to show that we can not only highlight, but fix the issues within the city.
The truth is, if you have a good candidate people are into, they might not win, but you get a lot of votes to build a structure, and they can... The old way of thinking, and a lot of what this year happening elections showed me that I think in the old way, because my generations follow things the way they used to work. So we all felt like, how was Justin Elk going to run without a slate of alders, right? Because the idea is you get people working in each district.
Right.
But I think he was probably smarter because then he'd be picking fights he doesn't need and losing votes when people might otherwise vote for him. If he like had an alder against the other alder, like in Ward 25, the alders for Tony Harp. And Tony Harp was unpopular in that ward. And if she had stayed really running campaign, it would have hurt him in the general. So another way is that maybe, like, so I always thought if the Republicans had a, like Bob Cook when he ran in the 60s against Dick Lee, or when John Heineken ran against Daniels. They didn't win, but they got other alders elected, and that's in the old-fashioned way of thinking about things. You build a team that way.
Yeah, I think the new way of thinking, at least from our perspective, is we don't want any paper candidates.
Oh, you want people who really can win.
Yeah, we want people who really can win, that we feel will be able to lend credence to what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish.
How many do you have again? Is it 4?
Yes, there's 4 individuals running currently.
Okay.
I know 3 of them are on the slate, and then one of them petitioned on afterwards.
Oh, was that Eric or no?
Correct.
Okay. And so now Ward 26.
Yes.
So Darrell Brackeen, who you're running against, kind of had a similar view about sidewalk type issues, which is that a lot of his issues are dealing with the environment in Ward 26. Sidewalks crack, but trees are really old and they're beautiful, but some topple on people's houses.
Yeah, the Ashwood issue. We got trees rotting, falling down.
Yeah. And also, like, as he said, a lot of it was built on a former lake and ponds.
Yeah.
So you had sinking homes.
Yep.
And,
my basement, I'm very familiar with the concept.
Tell me about your basement. When did you buy the house?
So I just bought it in March. So I bought it in March. I moved up there. Bless her heart, my girlfriend has actually moved from Massachusetts and come to Connecticut.
Good move. Is she registered?
She's not registered yet.
So there goes your vote. That was a big vote for you. Right?
Oh my goodness. I don't think my numbers are that bad.
No, I don't mean it's your only vote. I mean, like.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
You got to start building a vote, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, so you bought a house in March.
Yep. Bought the house, moved in. Older house. I've had to do some work on it. Dry rot, lead paint, which I truly understood the extent of it after I moved in. So.
Well, how old's the house?
1910.
Whoa. Now, is that really 1910? I always noticed that in the land records, a lot of houses say 1900 or 1910. Then the people really find the old deeds and everything, find out that they're older.
Yeah.
Although there were a lot of houses built around 1910.
Yeah, especially in the Westville area. Because it was one of the first, like, nodal offshoots.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it's that old. There's some wonkiness in regards to an easement for our driveway, because there's 3 houses next to us, but it's the house in the middle that has the easement for our driveway. So I don't know how that works out, but very interesting stuff.
And where are you in the ward? Which part?
So I'm on West Prospect. So kind of I'm trying to think directions in my head.
It's only 2 block.
Middle upper portion.
Because right near the synagogue.
Yeah, right next to it.
And that's interesting. That's the Westville Synagogue, and they are right over a little stream. You
Really?
wouldn't know it. And so, like, they get tons of moisture and rot. They can't sell the building because they tried to merge with another congregation that got smaller because they're Orthodox and there aren't as many people there. Yep. And the building really can't be sold for value because of the water, as I understood it. I don't know the whole thing. So you moved in. You said you began to understand the breadth of the lead paint issue when you moved in.
Yeah. So I had realized that there was going to be some lead paint, but porch is all lead paint. There's the doors are painted in lead paint because they're all the old latch doors, which is great. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I love the old houses. How many family house is it?
Single family.
Single.
Both my homes are single families.
So you had to do, but you don't have tenants, so you don't have to clean the lead paint.
No, I don't have to.
You don't have kids.
No, not yet.
Oh, but you hope to one day. So then,
one day I do want to have kids. And the honest truth of it is, even though it costs more money, it raises the value of the home if there isn't lead.
That's true. Yeah.
And so that's actually why.
So it's more than you thought would be there.
Yeah, it's more than I thought would be.
And
there.
Are you remediating it?
I will be remediating.
How much is it going to cost you?
A pretty penny. So I'm looking to actually have a second. My kitchen's very long. I'm looking to have a second bathroom put in and then redo the upstairs bathroom because it's absolutely tiny. It's a very tiny bathroom. With a marvelous clawfoot tub. But I
can't
contacted.
stand clawfoot tubs because they look pretty like a museum, but they're so uncomfortable to take a bath in.
Really, I really like it for the bath. The issue though is that
I guess they're deeper, but they don't expect you to be like 4 feet tall.
yeah, so you scrunch up a little bit. But I like mine. The only issue is that they had very small tiles in there before, so the weight of the clawfoot over the years has kind of broken all the tiles around it. But I found a company that would do the lead remediation as well when they were redoing the bathroom, and it's still about $15,000-$20,000.
And then so Joshua, you said you moved in, you understood the lead paint issue. You said it did also have some insight into the water issues and the tree issues too that Daryl's talking about.
Oh yeah, just because I've seen a lot of trees that have kind of branches have fallen off. They do a lot of and it's interesting at times because it's, you know, what department handles what. So you'll see it where the trees have been trimmed or the branches have been cut off and then left on the verge.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, you know, 6 months down the line, you still have branches on the verge, which may end up in the road or rotting.
And then there are two entities, right? The city comes and sometimes takes care of the trees. Sometimes UI wants to protect the wires,
power lines.
And then the decision makers are in the middle, and you'll be in the middle if you're an alder, because it's very important to us, our trees. It's part of what makes us the Elm City, even though they're not just elms. We love our trees, the old trees, but there's also a lot of pressure to get rid of the ones that are going to knock down either your electricity or, as in your ward, fell on an old woman's house while she was up at night and pretty close to her. And you saw, you know, so that's a tough balancing act.
It is a tough balancing act. And I think it's a matter of how we prioritize items and how we address like the existence of these issues. So when I was knocking, it's interesting because the ward will cut off in the middle of a street. So like,
I know. One of the most gerrymandered. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
It's not even all of Beverly Hills. And Beverly Hills is not a big neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like, you know, there's a Edgewood Park, we get part of it, and then like 4 houses on the other side.
Well, you're on Norton Street. It's like someone took an airplane to airlift you over 3 other wards to get a little street or two in Norton.
It makes no sense.
It is bizarre.
Right, very much so.
Somebody's protecting somebody's seat. Yeah,
we need to fix all that. But it boils down to process. So there's a house on the other side, and I saw a family that was trimming their own trees on the verge. I went, hey, I don't know if you know, but there's a tool, C-Click Fix, and you're supposed to be able to put it in there, log it with the city, and then they can come address it if it's part of their purview or tell you.
If it's by the sidewalk. Yeah.
Right. And they went...
Speaking of the sidewalk, Mayor.
Yeah. And they went, oh, no, we weren't aware of this tool. And the unfortunate side of things is even if they had been aware of that tool, it's, from my understanding of what other alders have told me, it's not effective.
That's what Darryl Brackeen said. The stuff isn't enough responsiveness. Yeah.
Right. And why? Why do we approve budgets for these things year after year if we don't use them? Why do we not hold departments accountable year after year if we are providing them these tools? And I'm not saying that department heads are there and you're, we're not going to do this. I think every department is under very unique pressures to get different priorities done. And I don't believe that the resources have been put forward or the path has been put forward by the alders to give direction to the departments of how to accomplish
we do have the committee. I forget the name, has a long bureaucratic name, but it's pretty cool where the alders do bring all their sidewalk repair pothole issues together, and rather than get one neighborhood that gets more priority than others, they really look scientifically at who needs the help and how to spread it out across the city.
And I have heard about that committee.
The issue is, do we have enough money to get far down that list? But Darryl Brackeen brought up traffic calming because he said that's an example where he felt that when people go through this safe streets process, we have complete streets, they often wait years and it kind of gets lost in the bottleneck. Because we've done a lot of, including in your ward, we've done a lot of traffic calming. We've done the traffic islands. We've done the building separated bike path. But there's still a lot of feeling. Like I know in Hove, there's one where a lot of kids have been hit. They've been waiting like 6 years.
Yeah, and part of it, as you said, it boils down to resources. And it's unfortunate because when you look at the budgetary process or just how we operate from a budgetary standpoint over the course of the year, one of the biggest transfer hits that we tend to see is from engineering. Now, I would have to confirm whether those are vacancy savings, contract savings, or other items. But there was an article that was put out, and I believe Doug
Houseladen.
Thank you very much. I'm terrible at last names myself at times. Had stated that part of it is the resources to do these studies, that they don't have them. So I would be curious to see, if we were not doing a myriad of transfers over the course of the year, whether all the departments would have the resources to perform the duties that they
Good question. So he's
so
asking,
desire.
Joshua Van Hoesen is asking those questions. He's a candidate for Alders, Ward 26, the west side of town, as a Republican. Is here on Dateline New Haven and WNHH 105 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. And flooding, sinking houses, did you have any insight of that moving in, or you're kind of up on the hill, so it's not a problem?
So I have water in my basement. It's not terrible because I've got a sump pump. And the previous owner had put down a lot of pallets. So like that's where my dryer and my washer is and the rest of it. I know to have a completely dry basement, it would be rather expensive. When I lived in the Cove, I had more of an issue with a flooding basement before they did some of the work on the road. And I had gotten an estimate there, and it was about $11,000 to do a full.
That's money.
Yeah, because they cut out all the edging around the basement. They have to channel the water into the sump pump. And then I believe you have to have the sump pump outflow not just go into the sewer water or wastewater. It's one or the other that it can't go into.
We have separated, yeah. So what's what how did that affect how you dealt with your new house, the water issue? Is that because you're so close to the water table that you have the stream going under?
Yeah. So after reading more in City and kind of looking at some of the old information and talking with older neighbors, I think there was a pond where my house was.
Yeah.
So, great soil, which my girlfriend loves because she's planning on doing a lot of gardening next year, which I get to build planters for that, which I'm also very excited for.
Oh, wow. So there's ups and downs and everything.
Yeah, there's ups and downs.
Deal with
there's
that.
ups and downs wherever you live.
So what about another big issue in the ward is dirt bikes?
Yes.
And just last weekend, just a few inches from your ward, a couple weeks ago, they found like 40 people or 100 actually driving in the Westville Village. Some fell off. They got arrested. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly difficult problem. And period, I very much sympathize with the police. It's hard to say to chase them because then if someone gets injured, and we don't want anyone getting injured. But also if you allow them to just run free, so to speak.
What about drones? To try to identify.
So the thing with drones is more of a technical standpoint. I'm not against drones. It's just the actual implementation that I would be curious to see how they would go about it.
Yeah.
Because drones zipping around.
They have to turn them off for some weird reason. You have to turn them off right near the Whaley Jail.
Yeah. There's just
FAA says Federal Aviation Administration.
Yeah. My dad actually. Well,
see. I thought as a geek tech guy, you might be into this. Like have
so
tech
so I would be into it. I'm just again, it's all about implementation. We can declare everything that we want that we're going to implement these solutions, but if they're not feasible, and so I would just have to see how it would go. Does it tag the license plate? Though a lot of these don't have license plates. So is an individual steering the drone?
They do intelligence. Some people come out of town, some come in. Sometimes they post stuff on social media. Some people they recognize. If you have pictures, the thought is you can go to their house. Some people fall off. So if you're just going to hang out, they could get 8 arrests in one day, but it's only a drop bucket. They think if they could change the law so you can immediately give them a summons that they have to pay $100 rather than a misdemeanor that actually gets in the criminal record and takes months in the court system and you maybe never pay. That might have a bigger impact. So I don't know. Bob McCormick joined. Thank you. Did Joshua support Elliker? Yes, we did mention that earlier. Alex Taubes says, how about giving people a place to ride their bikes that's safe? Thank you, Alex. I don't think anyone could be against that. There are a lot of people who feel that some of these people going to Mayhem actually aren't interested in that. Like when they come from New London, or like some people definitely would be interested, like kids from Hallville who get dirt bikes. But some people come in, they love giving the bird to the cops. They actually circle the cop cars and take videos of them breaking the law.
It's a rite of passage thing, and every town has their thing that their youths do to flout authority as they're growing up.
Some of these are adults, like hardcore.
Yeah, well, some people never grow out of being children.
Bob McCormick says, what about skate park in the area? We do have a skate park already in the area at Edgewood Park, right?
Yeah, which I actually just saw for the first time a couple, last week?
And the skaters designed that with the city. It was a great example of government working with people who are affected by something, and everybody in the neighborhood loves it. This counterculture spot. Really gets people of all races and ages, and everybody's cool with it.
Yeah, I was a huge fan. So my girlfriend and I walked down there. There's a little field next to it. We were playing old frisbee. We were joking around that we should invite the skaters, see if we wanted to start up a game of Ultimate, which honestly I think they would have been for. But yeah, no, I like it. I really like avenues in which we can have community engagement like that. I do understand there can be issues at times because it does take up space. So anytime you build something, it's going to offset something else.
Mm-hmm.
So if that previous space was being used by some other segment of the community, there could be, animosity there or hurt feelings. So I think it's working to address the issues that are brought up. And in
now, are there other issues specific to Ward 26 you're picking up, as opposed to the citywide issues?
So yes and no. When you're out knocking, you obviously find specific issues for even particular streets. So an example, Anthony Street tends to be a cut through from Fountain.
That's true.
Yep.
To Whaley.
And so lots of speeding. We got a lot of speeding. People are afraid. Individuals are going to get
Although
hit by
you stop
cars.
it goes right by Davis School, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And then there is a stop sign right there.
There is a stop sign. The unfortunate thing, which has been a comment of a lot of individuals, and I guess this isn't really a ward issue then, is people will run stop signs.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is both a ward issue and a city's issue.
Yep. And I think part of it is a culture of accountability that we need to build with citizens, residents, even visitors to our city.
How do we do that when we don't have enough cops to be there every time someone speeds?
No, I understand. So it's looking at the small changes that you can make within your community to kind of drive people to drive slower. And so one of them that has actually been rather effective is those drive like your kids live here signs.
Oh.
And what I would honestly like to see, and I don't know if it would be feasible in New Haven, but I know it's been done other places, is have kids create signs in art class or whatnot of, slow down, careful in my community, things along those lines that can be hung up around the neighborhood, put up in visible locations. Because it makes you think when you're driving through.
Yeah.
I've thought myself, I see a sign, drive like your kids live. Not that I have kids yet, but
do they have those in New Haven?
Yeah, I've seen individuals with those signs up.
Okay. Oh, like on their car or?
No, so they'll put them up on
their
lawn.
property. Oh, very interesting. We're talking about Joshua Van Hoesen, who is finding all about Ward 26 as a new resident there, as a candidate for Alder, as a Republican, and he's reading Doug Ray's classic book, City. And if it's fair to say, finding inspiration from Mayor Frank Rice?
Yeah, I've found a lot of inspiration in that book so far.
So top issues citywide. What are your top issues? Accountability and transparency still?
Yeah.
Your Alder does go to the management team.
No, so, and I'm a little on that one. So he does not typically come to our community management team meetings.
Oh.
That does not.
Ward 20, the Westville West Hills?
Correct.
Oh, I've seen him there.
So I've yet to see him there, though I admit I've only been there for 4 or 5 meetings.
Okay.
And here's the other thing that was the difference between the 18th. So in the 26th, we've got 2 other alders, Furlow and Marchand.
27 and 25, meaning that the wards bleed together more. 18 is isolated.
Yes, and so we would have one additional alder who would come and attend those meetings in the 18th, and not all the time because they had a lot of conflicting schedules. At the Westville CMT, I typically always see at least one alder there who has communicated with the other alders who would be present.
Okay, so it's a team.
Right, it's a team. And so I do appreciate that from them as a resident and a community member, because I like to be able to see the alders and go, hey, why'd you do this? Or, hey, what's the deal with this item?
And they need to hear what active people in the neighborhood want to have done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what are your big issues?
So my big issues right now are with project management. And this is just sort of how the city deals with things. A good example is the lead inspection issue that I'm sure most people are aware of. And if not, I would suggest that
4 separate judges have said in lawsuits the city is not following its own rules for how you order people to meet lead paint laws.
Yep. And we have not, which was very disappointing. And it's disappointing on a lot of different levels, from a budgetary process and a department standpoint. So when we approved the new budget this year, we did not ask for additional money for additional lead inspectors. If the department knew that it did not have the resources, as shown by all these court cases, to live up to the obligations that were given to it, because the alders are the ones who pass the ordinances. We go, this is what you as a department need to be doing these inspections at these levels, so on and so forth. So if the department comes back to us and goes, listen, we don't have the resources, and this is why we don't have the resources to accomplish what you're putting forth, and the alders go, then it's on the alders. But if you never get to that step, then it's on you. And that's what the city kind of continues to do, even at this point.
Meaning that they're not being proactive?
Correct.
Now, there's two sides on the inspector question. So the people suing the city at legal aid, and some of the alders who said they care a lot about lead paint, didn't want to approve the transfer when they finally transferred money for more inspectors. They said, it hasn't been proved to us that that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm 100%
They
with
felt
them.
that it was more like we had a health department that, in fact, this hasn't been reported, but in fact, the HUD took back a whole lot of money we were going to get for lead paint and didn't give us new enforcement. Said you weren't spending what you had to give people loans to fix the lead paint. And also, they said the problem was that we didn't have a computerized system, so we're trying to keep cases by hand. That was amazing. And that they said before, we want to fix the problem, but we don't just want to throw money at more inspectors if that's not going to solve it, if the problem is how the program is run and managed. But the other side said, look, we care about lead paint. Things take a long time. How could it not help to have, how are two people supposed to get to 10,000 dwelling units or 20,000 dwelling units that we need to be on top of course, having 8 more people out there, and if they do the fines, they'll pay for themselves. How could you not be for that?
Because hiring additional lead inspectors ourselves is not necessarily the best course forward.
So what would be better?
So potentially what I would like to see, and you could see it when they proposed the potential ordinance changes to the lead inspection. They had wanted to put the cost onto the homeowners. So if I had to get a lead inspection abatement, it was completely my cost. And the health department was only going to charge me whatever it cost them to do. So why do not they just require me to have an inspection done by a licensed individual instead of hiring on an additional individual themselves?
So you're saying privatize it?
What's that?
Privatize inspections?
Yeah, they're already licensed. There's already a multitude of individuals out there who can do this work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Alex Tubbs says, to be fair, none of the lawsuits have reached final judgment. All the rulings have been either preliminary injunctions or on motions to dismiss a class certification. I agree with that, but our report has been in court where the judges really took unusual steps of criticizing the city and saying, why are you even making these arguments in one case? I mean, 4 separate judges have said to the city, you're not following the law, start following the law. It's true they haven't ruled, as Alex said, on as a whole class affected of 300 people. They said it can be a class certification. They haven't ruled on all. They have ruled on remedies, though, in individual cases where you have to fix it. And they did specifically say from the bench that you're not following your own law. But as a Republican, Alex, do you really agree with legal aid? Because what legal aid is saying is the city was the only place in Connecticut that went for the lower standard of how many parts of lead there are per deciliter, right?
5.
Yeah, 5 micrograms deciliter. Whereas the rest of the state went with 20. And the city always went with 5, and it was doing that based on national research at the Centers for Disease Control. In the lead paint community, in the public health community, it's the lower standard is considered the real one that they didn't realize in the past, because that's 20, it's from last century, how much these poisoned kids are having brain damage for their whole life. So we had that higher standard, but then we quietly a year ago said we don't have as much money in inspectors, actually. So let's do the higher standard, and that's what became controversial. But as a Republican, do you really believe we should more closely regulate like that? Wouldn't a Republican normally say, and there are different Republicans, wouldn't a Republican normally say we shouldn't have to meet a higher standard? That's intrusive government regulation.
There's kinds of 2 sides to it here. There's the side that if we pass a law, we need to be following the law.
Gotcha.
And that's very Republican right there. If a law's on the books, we should be following it. Very few Republicans that I've heard argue otherwise. And we have the ability to change it. I know it's a difficult process at times. I've sat through the hearings where they've proposed the changes. There's back and forth, and I really wish we had addressed the process in a more constructive manner, because maybe we wouldn't have.
I think I could be wrong, but I think legal aid's argument is we don't need new laws. We don't need new process. We need a health department that can actually function, because it hasn't. Yeah. The release of the people's private data. I mean, there was, and now they finally got rid of people. Been there a long time after not getting rid of them.
Well, my understanding is that they left, not that they were gotten rid of.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Okay. I don't know all the back end stuff.
The most key person did not want to leave.
Yep. I see what's in the news, so
okay.
That's all I know.
Okay. Any other key issues? Project management. Are you thinking of other projects too?
Yeah, I mean that's just one example, but it's kind of across the board, and there's little here and there's that
Examples?
I could point out. So a big thing that I would like to see is all department kind of policies and procedures public.
Mm-hmm.
And a reason for that, and I like the department. I critique them sometimes, but parking and transportation, I actually think they're one of the better run ones. But there's been times where I've gotten, written responses from them through their system that is then doesn't line up what I've been told in person. And as a resident, that's disconcerting. As a project manager, that's not really acceptable in my book.
You are a project manager.
Yeah, so I do. I manage a bunch of projects. I'm a lead software engineer. I've been developing accounting software for 8 years. Yeah.
Well, that's for instance. Let's talk about that. That's been a big issue about how we manage our finances, and there's been a big tech upgrade under Darryl Jones, the controller. We're in a different place from where we were before.
Yes.
So when cities were hacked, the main city governments were hacked, we actually had a good system in place of firewalls and backups, redundancy. So we never got hit. Our school system did get hit. Yes. It wasn't devastating. It was 2 days or 3, and we got the stuff back up. And now we're coordinating more with the schools in the city. Our city website really was a mess, and now we've brought that more into the modern age. Any thoughts on all that?
More onto the modern age.
Yeah.
So
it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Last time you ran it was pathetic.
Yes, it was. But yes, it has improved. And they've been responsive to some of the critique suggestions that I've sent in.
And they have an awesome designer.
Yeah, no, I like the overall design of the website. I think it's very nice at this point. From a tech standpoint, I'm very happy to see that we're moving forward. I know that we've been implementing an ERP system, which
is that?
Enterprise Resource Planning. And it's actually what I work primarily with, not with the particular product that we're using in the city. We use something called Municipal, which I believe is from a company in Waterbury. I develop an ERP system called Acumatica, but they're similar stuff. Municipal is more towards municipalities.
Is it accounting?
Yeah, so it's all accounting, mostly accounting. So invoice.
So you feel good about the steps that have been made to improve our tech infrastructure?
Yes. And I would like to know that we are putting the proper resources into that and implementing it as quickly as possible. Because the more that we can kind of get all the departments on the same page.
And they're working that, about the app that has them all follow the same piece of property. You call it right up.
Yep. Field services. All
so
that
are you running on this issue? Or are you saying they're doing a good job? Or you're saying they're doing the right stuff, but you want to have pressure to do it better?
That's the one.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. When I look at the Board of Alders, I don't see 30 individuals who don't know what they're doing or have the worst intention for the city. I see a lot of individuals from very diverse, very experienced.
It's really interesting when you have 30. You're going to inevitably have some who are better on potholes, some who are really good at community park cleanups, and some who really get in the nitty-gritty of data and laws.
And that's where my focus would be, is the project management, how we're tying all these things together from a tech standpoint as well. Efficiency. It's what I get paid to do. I would really like to do it kind of pro bono basis for the residents of
So you want to be a watchdog?
No, it's a team effort no matter what.
Okay, but you want to play a good kind of oversight roles in Alder.
Yeah.
What about Darryl Brackeen? Any thoughts on him? You running against him?
So I am running against him. Honestly, I've only been able to have a couple of brief conversations with him. I feel like he was slightly frustrated when I first spoke to him, because here I went, I'm an individual running for project management and responsibility, and he may have taken that I was saying that he was not good at any of those things. From what I've seen from his background, he obviously has experience with, large organizations and, running companies. But I think there's a particular focus that comes about from actually designing these systems, figuring out how all the pieces fit together that I can bring that I don't necessarily have seen yet that he has the experience.
So is there anything he's doing wrong? You're just saying you want to run as an alternative, as a special skill set that you think can bring an extra level of expertise and oversight to the Board of Alders.
Is he doing anything wrong? Well, I mean, he's a he's a Democrat. And what I say about that is,
Yeah.
we've got 30 Democrats. So if he
Yeah.
was a Republican and we had another voice that could really be open and honest with the people, I'd be much more comfortable.
So you're running to kind of have alternatives by having a Republican and running to bring your special skill set to focus on project management and transparency.
Absolutely.
So that's a good way to put it, right? Okay, anything else you want to make sure we mention today before we head
out? No, just everyone drive safe.
What's the name of your company again that you work?
So I work for accounting system integrators, and the main product that we have written is Nonprofit Plus.
Okay. And where is that based?
So it's up in North Haven, Connecticut.
Okay, so not a bad drive when they're not fixing the
it's
tunnel.
like 15 minutes. I'm right off 15, so it's very easy.
Excellent. Well, anyway, what a play. I always love when you run for office, George Van Hoesen, and I love when you come on Dateline New Haven.
Well, I very much
our
appreciate you
listeners
having me
another
on.
point of view, another party in town. They do exist, the Republicans.
We are around.
All right. And I want to also thank the miracle man behind the controls, WNHH station manager Harry Dross. I want to thank the people who listened and put in questions. Alex, great questions as always. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.